Welcome to the podcast that buffs your Hearthstone game. This is Velen's Chosen.
Not all who wander are lost.
Greetings, visionary. Welcome to Velen's Chosen. Whether you're a competitive player, an arena specialist, a deck building visionary, or you just like having some fun, we can help you buff your game and achieve your Hearthstone goals. This week is back to episode 155, closing in on that 3-year marker, ladies and gents, actually. So we're pretty excited about that. We got 2 episodes before it's been officially 3 years worth of regularly scheduled episodes. Technically, I think that we already achieved that milestone, but the episode count is different now that we started adding those lore moments. So technically the number should be 156 because it's 52 weeks in a year minus leap years, which we never account for because reasons. But my name's Rob, and I'm here to educate you on everything that's not Hearthstone. And joining me as always is Grant from Texas. What's up, Grant?
Howdy, folks. So it's just a PSA. It's thunderstorming a little bit outside, so for some reason, like, I vanished suddenly. It's not a magic act. It's merely that the weather is saying nope to my internet and electricity, but it seems like it's getting lighter, so I'm not worried about it too much. That was Weatherstone for the day, by the way.
Weatherstone, and
or at least the beginning of the
taking us back to
conversation.
Overwatch, which is not related to Hearthstone at all, because Vancouver is now getting an Overwatch League team, which is near our next favorite guest, which is equally as favorite as Grant.
Okay, I was wondering where you're going with
that.
I'm covering my bases. Don't cut me off early. That's how it goes on the host roll, okay? You don't cut me off and let me cover my bases and make sure that I don't look like an idiot, and then you can talk, okay?
No, this is what I do. I cut off everybody on this show. Go, wait, what? No, explain.
I've learned. It's been 3 years.
When you said if I suddenly disappear, Grant, I just kind of like had this mental image of a lightning coming out of the blue and just poof, Grant's gone.
Poof of smoke billows up on the screen.
Reduced to atoms.
Poof of smoke, even.
Grant.
I'm in the Speed Force, guys.
All right. Well, what are we doing
Anyways.
this week, guys? Grant, I'm going to just let you introduce what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, well, it's been a really light week for news. And, in those kinds of weeks, we content creators go, gee, gosh, golly, darn gee whiz, what are we going to talk about? So I thought, we're settled in the meta, or getting more settled than we've been, and stuff is starting to stabilize. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about a crafting guide. And I kind of in my mind call it crafting, dusting, keep guide, because some cards, if you have them, you don't want to dust them, you want to keep them even though you don't use them because maybe they might have future application, things like that. So we're going to spend most of the show having that discussion. We're going to kind of stick to mostly legendaries, some epics, and maybe a couple odds and ends depending on where the conversation leads us. But so basically we'll kind of frame it. We'll go class by class. We'll go down and say, okay, these are the cards that we think would be worth using your dust to craft. We'll talk about the circumstances under which you might even consider crafting something. Like if you hate Druid like Eve does, she probably doesn't want to craft Druid cards. So that's like a no-go for her. But if you love Druid, maybe you might consider that. Or you want to play a particular archetype, you might consider crafting or otherwise. So before we kick it off, anybody else want to chime in here with any thoughts?
I just kind of
Actions,
embraced
commentary.
that because it gave me so much dust. I never really liked Druid, and then it was like, if I dust all of my Druid cards, I'll be able to make so many legendaries. So I just embraced it.
Well, but that's kind of the overall or overarching point of this conversation is that you kind of have to know what you want to play and what you care about, and then you can start kind of min-maxing your dust, because if you, like Eve, hate Druid, then why keep Druid cards? Like, if you know you're not going to play Druid, then why bother, right? So you might be sitting on a stockpile of dust that you can use to play things that you like to play. If you can just kind of get over that hurdle of maybe giving away some of your shinies or giving away some aspects of your collection that are just collecting dust, no pun intended. So
You just gotta weigh like this need to collect, which I have. I am one of those gamers that is a collector. I like to have all of the things, especially shiny, pretty golden things. You have to weigh up against it, like sitting there, not gathering dust in your inventory. Small joke.
I know all these dust jokes. But you know,
or yeah, making it into something where
There's
you
only
could have fun.
There's only a mote of humor in that.
So what got me thinking about it was I was playing Hearthstone with my daughters. My second daughter, just out of the blue, was like, "Daddy, I want to play Hearthstone," and she's 6. Of course, she's learning math. I mean, basic addition is a thing for her. So I thought, this might be a good opportunity to show her why it's good to be able
Labs.
to snap through 3 + 7, and things like that, and 4 + 9, and all that good stuff. So she didn't know this, but I had set up an account for her like a year and a half ago. And I'd done all the tutorials and stuff for her so that she could get like the cards and play Tavern Brawl as she saw fit. So we got all her free stuff. We started downloading stuff. Well,
That's a lot of work, Grant. Like to
dedication.
Get a first account to like just ready for somebody to play and not have to gather all the cards. Like mad respect. Dad of the
your
year.
oldest already play, Grant?
Oh yeah, she already played. Well, that's where I'm going with
it's
this.
the transition. So
yeah, is when older sister sees little sister playing, older sister goes, "Wait a minute, I want to play." And older sister hasn't thought about it too much in the last month or two. So we sat down and started playing, and I started browsing her card collection because she got a free legendary from the Boomsday and this and that, and I started browsing. I'm like, "Dang, you actually have some cards," and I started saying, "All right, babe, what do you want to play?" And she's like, "I want to play a good deck," and I said, "How about Zoo?" And she goes, "What's that?" She got real excited. Yeah. And so what we did is I min-maxed her collection. I looked through. She had a bunch of legendaries. She had a Lady in White. I didn't know that. She had Dr. Morgan was her free one from the Boomsday set, and a bunch of other ones. I'm like, "Babe," I said, "you can keep these. I'll let you make the decision. Or we can get something that you can play and you can win with." And my daughter's, that kind of person. Like, I just like winning. She's a spike like that. I want, guilty. So we went through a collection.
I know your dad.
and Spike's daughter is more spiky. I don't know. So progeny. Oh yes. So so anyways, we went through a collection and like cards that I possess that I would not dust because I have a pretty good collection. I was like, because I do content creation, I don't want to get rid of these cards. For a player like her, who she just wants to win and she wants to like rank up and get her, her card back for the month. She just wants to play, win, and have a good time and feel powerful. So we created almost a card for card zoo list. The only thing that's missing is the Solarium because we didn't have the 1600 dust for that. But I crafted her Keleseth, and I started teaching her how to play Heal Zoo, and it's been great. And she can pilot the deck and actually win in the 20s. She plays ladder. She's like, "I want to win. I want the star." She doesn't care how like casual. She wants to win for stars. She wakes up the next morning and says, "Dad, did I lose any stars by not playing?" Oh gosh, what have I done?
Dad, can you explain decay to me?
Did my rank decay? Yeah. And you know what? The name Zoo just appeals to children.
Well, and I thought maybe, it's Warlock, and I don't have the Nimsy portrait. So guess my wife's going out of town in October. Guess what I'm going to go do? I'm going to go find a fireside and log in on all 3 of my kids' accounts and get a Nimsy. Nice. So she can have the little. And the funny thing is Lizzie, my oldest daughter, looked a lot like Nimsy with the chubby cheeks and the round face and the pigtails when she was little, gnome size. So, anyways, with I don't mean to beleaguer everybody with
No. It's cute, Grant. Continue on.
Such good content.
You want to know what you could also do, Grant? This is a lot more difficult, is you'd have to install like World of Warcraft and do the Liadrin thing. And if they wanted to play Paladin with a female hero, you could do that. But
I've actually thought about that.
Druid,
the 1 to 20
Lunara
thing, if you ever wanting to do it, even I can definitely get you in a place where we can highly recommend a starting zone that's really quick and everything's super close together. And what they do now is once you've leveled to max, you can start out at level 20 on a lot of the stuff. And everything is much quicker, I think, for leveling. I got to level 4 in 10 minutes, to give you an idea.
Going off-road. We're going off-road.
Anyways, if you're looking for Hearthstone stuff for your family, for your friends, just knowing where those tools are is also a great way to keep people involved and kind of mixing and matching things, making sure that playing the same things over and over again allow you to have a different portrait is something that is enjoyable for a lot of players. I know that I'm a guy that likes to use Medivh or Khadgar, but when you hit ranked 500 or you hit 500 ranked wins, you have the golden portrait, and you can go back to using Jaina, and it's nice and shiny now. So you can do those type of things. And Eve can play Malfurion, even though she never
No,
mind.
Lunara. Lunara is cute.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny. Lizzie, the first Blizzard game I think Lizzie ever played was Heroes. She would play Heroes of the Storm, and you know, people who are computer gamers like hardcore will appreciate that I had her learn, you know, AWSD. Like she can do AWSD with her left hand and mouse and do all that stuff. And so she saw Lunara portrait pop up in her request because she just hasn't played that much recently, and she goes, "Oh, Lunara from Heroes of the Storm," and I'm like, "My girl, ooh," because you
Nice.
know she has that character. But anyways, so
Let's get into the
you know,
crafting guide, shall we?
so crafting. So it's kind of fun to go through your collection and figure out what you want to play. Because honestly, like I have a lot of cards, but I probably only use like what 25% of what I actually own, because the meta tends to narrow it out for you. So you can certainly have a great deck and not feel bad about getting rid of some stuff. So we're going to talk about Druid. And we're going to really focus on Boomsday cards in particular, not like the collection at large that's playable in standard, right? Everybody clear on that? Because I think we can get lost in the weeds on like, you know, Keliseth. You know, Keliseth's a good card. Craft it. Enough said, you know. But we're going to kind of focus on what's kind of the cream that's floated to the surface, if you will. So here we are in Druid. I would say if you are the kind of person who, one, you have to like Druid, and two, you have to like the kinds of things that Druid does. So mainly like Togwaggle kinds of decks where you're trying to mill them out or switch their decks. If you like Timmy type of stuff, if you like you know, combo kind of play with like Malagos decks and things like that, you might consider crafting Phlebodinous Floop. Now, Phlebodinous Floop I think is not as good as everybody said it was. Everybody's like, oh, Druid's going to break the game. Everybody's going to, you know, be playing Druid. It's going to be Druid Stone. You know, the sky is falling, etc., etc. So if you're interested in playing Druid, that would be a safe craft if you have dust laying around. In tandem with that, Dream Petal Florist was the other card. It's the 7-drop 4/4 that reduces a minion in your hand by 7. That's incredible, especially when you can cast Azalina for free. That's always very interesting. So those cards would be safe.
That it was being used a lot in Wild, Dream Petal Florist. Is there a combo deck that is only available in Wild?
Well, it's kind of,
is it
anything
the Aviana?
Aviana Coon combo stuff is just, it's like the combo. Like, let's see, if I take Aviana and Coon and then do all these other things, what does it allow me to do? It's kind of like that's the bridge to whatever new combo has come out with ever new cards. So Dream Petal Florist enables that. But it's almost probably even too clunky for Aviana Coon, because Aviana makes everything cost 1. And then you drop Coon, then you have a full hand of, you know, minions and stuff for that's going to cost 1. So so it's kind of pointless. It's a little redundant, I guess you could say. I think where people will probably be more interested in is like dusting stuff, because you know sometimes when you have my daughter doesn't have Warlock cards, or she didn't, but she pulled Dr. Morgan. It's like, great, Dr. Morgan. In fact, both of them, their free legendary was Dr. Morgan. What are the odds, right? And so like if you have a Floop's Glorious Goop, I pulled one of those. I have one of those. I've never used it once. It has its applications, but if you're not really into those applications, a la like Token Druid is about the only Druid that was really using it. And what?
Cthulhu
and the
Druid
Cthulhu,
uses it. Yeah.
Cthulhu Druid. But those are pretty narrow applications. So if you have a Floop Scoop, or what?
I said, of course. I mean, if you're running Cthulhu in your deck list, it's not like you went out of your way to craft it unless it was day 1. You're super excited, right?
Right. And all the Cthulhu decks have sort of fallen off by the wayside. I think they might have some tournament application, but really, if you're looking to ladder, Cthulhu decks are probably not the way to go, unless you're just like living for the memes or something. But you're not going to get very high, or just play at a ranked floor for all the Timmies out there. So if you have a Floop's Glorious Gloop, I don't think you could feel the least bit bad about dusting it. Especially if you're looking to do more competitive play and climb. the other kind of card that goes with that is the Juicy Psych Melon. That card in Wild is busted. That card makes the Star Aligner combo possible. It's just really cool, and it's really good for Togwaggle decks as well. But outside of that, it doesn't really see much play in Standard. So if you have some of those, and you're not looking to play those types of decks, or you're never looking to play in Wild, then again, it's another free 100 dust that you could probably get your hands on and do something useful with. Comments, questions?
The first thing that I do is look at epics when I go to just kind of get a couple of dust to reach the amount of dust I can get to make a legendary. I just got to like bridge that gap. I look through all my epics because every time we get together and review new cards, it's always the epics are the ones that are weird and wonky and niche. And there are some that have ended up being like integral to decks, but there are quite a few that are just kind of odd and never find a place. And that's a decent amount of dust. Like, you have to dust a lot of rares and commons in order for it to even be worth it. But a couple of epics will go far. So that's the first place I look.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's what I tend to do is I look at the epics, like, because they are always almost niche cards. I always look at them and say, okay, this one is just so niche that I don't see its application yet. And if for some reason I need that dust later on, I should be in a position to be able to handle it. But this card that I want now, I'm using the dust for. So
and a lot of the times you only need 1, 2. Even if there is an epic that you're using in a certain deck, a lot of the times you don't need 2 of them.
True story. This is true. All right. Anything, Rob, or should we move on to Hunter?
All I'm going to try to do this episode is try to get you guys in the mindset of future-proofing, which is a different style tactic for dusting and crafting that Grant is not focusing on. So Grant is going to be focusing on immediacy within the stuff that you're going to want to look at right now or within the next couple weeks or month before the next set drops. But I'm going to be kind of letting you know through these epics and through these legendaries that we're highlighting, because rares and commons are something that you should just be picking up as you accumulate card packs and gold and all of those things. But there are cards in these sets like Forbiddenous Floop where... Or sorry, not Forbiddenous Floop, but Floop's Glorious Gloop, which is the 1-mana spell that could have future applications later on. Anything that is really, really wonky or anything that seems super niche, as long as the niche is not being a narrow playing field of a specific circumstance that could happen. Instead, if it's more of like general purpose and is just not really used right now, for example, the legendary spell, that is a fairly general purpose use that you could still take advantage of later on in different metas as different cards come introduced, as cards cycle out next year. Those are the things you need to be looking through. And so these are cards that if you're looking to future-proof, they're not in the priority dust category, but they are in a dust category, if that makes sense.
Right. Right.
And that's, I think, what Grant was really trying to jam home with some of these epic cards in particular. If you're not going to stick around and play Wild, future-proofing your cards collection for Wild is a whole nother ball game. And as much as we like to make sure that we can, involve our Wild and Standard listeners, we do have a heavy Standard focus here on our show.
I think there are some people that they don't have enough time to focus on both anyway, so you got to pick one. So it's fine. I always kept a lot of cards because I was worried about the adventures, because in the past there've definitely been a lot of bosses that we went up against that you needed specific cards for, and I always wanted to have all the options to make a deck to go up against the heroic versions. But lately all of the adventures have been, they provide you with the cards. And if they're going forward in that direction, it's becoming even more safe to dust your old Wild cards if you're not going to go into Wild, because you don't have to worry about some adventure springing up and then you need to make this ridiculous deck. I really think they're going forward to like a more friendly, when we make this, we're going to give you the cards to play it.
Yeah.
Also, Grant, could you, before you move on, talk about the value of dusting golden stuff and how you've been able to min-max a lot of your collection management by using a no gold policy?
Yeah,
You have no gold cards?
No, I have some.
Relatively speaking.
Like for example, I have golden legendaries. Like ever since they passed their new rule of if you pull a legendary, you'll never pull it again until you have all the legendaries in the set.
Right.
If I, for example, I have like 3 golden priest legendaries. I pulled gold. Apparently, I just pull golden priest legendaries. That's what I do.
It's the curse
And
of Velen.
yeah, apparently, and I have them.
Major
So like,
ones.
I'm not going to dust them because one, like they're like Lyra, and what's the other one? Lady in White, and I think
That's
there's one other one that I
value.
have.
Lyra gives you golden cards, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. It's pretty sweet.
Nice.
But I don't really play Lyra decks, so I could probably make the case of what if I ever really need to dust, I could dust it, But I digress. But like in those cases, I don't dust them because I will never get those. I'll have to. It's hard to pull a legendary, and it's just worth keeping. Yeah, same thing for golden epics. Unless I have the regular ones, I don't ever dust my golden epics. Like I have a golden UI, and I keep waiting for them to nerf it. You know what I mean? I want that free dust, and then I'll just dust it, and then I'll get a regular one. You know,
Uh-huh.
but basically for me, my policy has been like I would rather, unless I just don't have that card now, I would rather have the dust for it because I just get so much more value off the dust to get the stuff I do want. So, like when I open my 50 packs or whatever I get at a new set, I just anytime I get dust, I just double check to make sure I have the card already. And if I have gold, I don't care about the shiny. I just get all that dust, and it adds a good probably 500 to 1,000 dust to my collection that I wouldn't have otherwise had. And that dust always gets put into something useful because I almost always spend all my dust. That's just kind of my MO in life in Hearthstone. It's like I want cards, I want to be able to play, I want to be able to play the game in its fullest capacity. And I was looking at my collection. I think I'm only missing 3 or 4 cards total from the Boomsday collection. You know what I mean? And that was largely because I got all my dust. I didn't sit on it. I got to put it to work so I can make content, so I can play the game the way I want to play it. And I have no golden cards except for the ones like a handful of legendaries. So totally worth
Well,
it.
I mean,
Go ahead.
Counterpoint to that is that, like, to our listener, however you play and however you have fun in the game, I wouldn't underestimate the fun of a golden card, especially if it gives you other golden cards. I mean, you and I really enjoyed Whizbang in golden.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
He gives a lot of joy. So if you do kind of feel like, oh, I want to hold on to this and I have a lot of fun playing with it and I like the shinies, don't feel bad about that. Absolutely. That is your fun. That is part of the way you play the game and enjoy Hearthstone, and embrace that. But if there is a deck that you can't play because you're short like key cards and you don't have the dust, yeah, these are things you might want to consider as weighing up against your, did you ever really use that golden card, or is it sitting in your collection and you never actually played with it? So,
Well, I mean, and it depends on what your goals are, right? If your goal is just to tootle around and mess around, then keep whatever you want. This has been sort of my way of doing things probably since I started playing the game. Like I just realized one day that I would rather have the dust, and I've dusted a lot of golden legendaries that I pulled out. Like I've dusted a golden Gruul, I've dusted a golden Black Knight, I've dusted a golden, I think, Nose Dormu, because when I pulled Nose Dormu, I didn't really have a full collection. And I was like, well, I can't use this card. This card is just going to be pretty and do nothing for me. So I'd rather have the 1,600 dust. And I think I probably turned around and bought like a Ragnaros or something like that, So that
which is a solid choice.
Yeah. So I mean, what I'm getting at is like, you figure out the cards that are like the cards that are shaping the meta, the cards that are making decks good, and then anything that's golden that's not making decks good, you reinvest that into making cards that are going to get you places. So having said that, let's talk about Hunter. So Hunter had some good stuff come out in this last set. I'm hesitant to say craft anything in Hunter right now, but if you have dust and you want to play a certain kind of way, Hunter is really fun in the death rattle department, and Boommaster Flark is a fun card, and you can do some really nifty combo things. So if you're looking to play like a Timmy style, Hunter style, death rattle kind of play, Boommaster is your boy. I was fortunate enough to pull one, so I didn't have to craft him, but he's one of those cards like he's not
ultimate Johnny.
Yeah,
like incarnate.
Yeah, he kind of is really. But he
is that like the I want to win, but I want to have fun at the same time.
Yeah, you want to win on your on your own terms. On your own terms. Timmy's are just more like I just want to
kill them. That's Timmy, but it's like if you don't, it's okay. Whereas Flark's like, I have synergies. I can win games. I can actually get you there. Maybe not as efficiently as the spikes can, but
he's a contender.
You can do some damage. Yeah.
It's kind of like Zetalot. Zetalot's like the Johnny. He's like, how
that's fair.
in the world do you get this?
Yeah.
Then like another craft, if you don't have it now, you probably have pulled this, but if you're wondering whether or not you want to spend any kind of dust on this, like Spider Bomb. Spider Bomb was everybody says like, wow, this card, we kind of thought it was underwhelming at first, but man, is it good. Especially when you can like cube it or play dead on it or use Umbra on it or something like that. Spider Bomb does work.
Did we really say were we underwhelmed by it? Because
We
just straight
weren't
up
as-
removal seems really good.
Well, it
always.
was the random thing. I think everybody was wondering, like, is that random thing really going to actually be beneficial? The 2 health, easy to remove. I think if you know how to play it, it's good. And I think we were all a little bit like, well, it seems like it could be good, but I'll
It
reserve
also
judgment
got
for
the
now.
first like 5 card release treatment
Right.
from a lot of people. They're like, well,
Yeah.
we'll see what the context is when it comes out, and then nobody talked about it anymore after that.
Right.
It's
yeah.
just really good. It's a good craft.
Yeah. Now, in terms of dusting hunter cards, like I pulled a couple of these, the Necro Mechanic. Now, that triggers your death rattles, right? Let's see, how many times? Does it trigger it twice or once? I don't remember. But it triggers death rattle.
The one that
It's
they...
Baron Rivendare for Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
When
So
they die,
it's-
trigger it twice.
Yeah. And that's cool. But it's just really, it's actually kind of like a 31st, 32nd card in Death Rattle Hunter decks at the
Yeah.
moment.
Doesn't
Now,
have any initiative when it's played.
right. It's very, yeah, there's better things. There are better ways to getting there with that. But so if you have those, that might be a good way of getting dust. Goblin Prank is kind of the same thing. It gives a buff and allows your minions to rush. And Flark's Boomzooka is a legendary that just really is, it's so specific and it's so, it's a lot of mana for something that you don't really control because if I'm not mistaken, the minions come out and just attack, right? You don't really control them. They just kind of do
Right.
something and then that's it. So fun factors, huge. But like, oh my gosh, I can't
That was
believe
a
it worked
Timmy
out that
card.
way.
Man.
I'm so lucky, But it's a card that like if you pull it, like especially if your card collection is not robust, it's a card that you don't really need to be keeping in your collection. It's not going to do any work for you.
Now, I'm gonna interject
Go ahead, Rob.
here with Goblin Prank. This is definitely a future-proof card that you want to keep your tabs on because, like we said, this is like very, very, very similar to a card that they had to rotate out, which what Warlock had, which is Power Overwhelming, and this card can be dangerous. And any card that you can say, well, this could be like a 31st, 32nd card, when rotation comes around, those 31st, 32nd cards now become your card 24. So you may need to keep an awareness on that, and then if you're really wanting to trade up with certain things like eggs and stuff, this card still sees a little bit of play, even just as a one-off copy. You can even run it in as a tech card, so just keep that in mind. It's not terrible if you have one, but if you have two, there's not a whole lot of application for the second one, at least not yet.
That's what I generally do to be safe, is just keep one of them. If you're worried and you have 2 epics, just keep one.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things like when you're making decisions about like keeping cards and getting rid of cards, you're going to experience a mild sense of loss and uncertainty whenever you do this. You just have to logic is your guide here, like what's my goal? What do I want to do? How do I get there? Is this actually going to hurt me? Things like that. You don't make it an emotional decision. If you find yourself doing that, then maybe you might be too attached to your cards. I don't know. I know I'm pretty
Yeah,
attached to my
probably.
cards, but
Me too.
And I did make
I
a
mean-
golden Malygos, so
I made a golden whiz bang. It's the first
Yeah.
golden card I ever crafted on purpose, and I like that card a lot. It's already been getting me lots of quests. So,
Everyone wants to play with Grant so they can play his whiz bang.
well, what's funny is when they use their own golden whiz bang, then I just laugh. Anyways, I guess we'll move on to Mage. Mage is interesting because Mage had a lot of interesting stuff come out that kind of helped Tempo Mage. So I'm going to just kind of say like the cards that I'm talking about here really seem, the crafting ones anyways, are really kind of geared towards a particular archetype. And Mage right now is either kind of big spell, control Mage kind of thing, or Tempo really burn Mage, like just going to knock you down as fast as I can and just hit you for hundreds of damage. So Celestial Emissary is the card that gives you a +2 damage on the next spell you cast in that turn. Tempo Mage will drop that and then play, Cinderstorm. Hooray for 7. Same thing, Cosmic Anomaly, same story. They give you permanent +2 spell damage on the board. Those cards are not expensive, but if you want to play Tempo Mage, you kind of these days you need them for that extra spell damage. Blister Guy had an awesome review of Cosmic Anomaly in the I think one of his recent episodes this last week. We talked about the benefits of spell damage. Stargazer Luna fits nicely in that deck. It gives you some card draw. It can help you chain stuff together. Now that card though, I'm going to put a caveat, a condition on it. That'd be a great one to craft if you like playing Mage and Tempo Mage is your jam. Get that card. You won't regret it. It's a fun card to play. Artwork is fantastic on it. But if you don't really play Mage and you don't like Tempo Mage and it's not really your jam, you might consider dusting it as well if you would rather play something completely different. Luna's Pocket Galaxy is another card. Super fun. Like when you play with it and you're pulling out 1-cost Lich Kings and you're pulling out 1-cost all these other bigger, fatter minions, because you typically will play it in a more control-heavy minion-based deck. It's awesome, but because it costs 7, it's really tempo negative and it can feel real bad. It's sort of like a win more card at that point in time. So if you're not into that playing that long Mage kind of game, then don't worry about that card. That card's not going to do much work for you yet. Now, I think I would say that's a possible future-proof card, depending on where Mage ends up going. You might. What do you think, Rob?
With regards to future-proofing, I feel like Stargazer Luna is a card that, like you're saying, Grant, is one of the cards you're going to keep tabs on. And with regards to the other one, the spell, I feel like it's a little bit less so because of them introducing cards like Primordial Glyph, where it's like you got a really good chance of pulling it, and then if you do, it's 5 instead of 7. And Pocket Galaxy for 5 is pretty good, especially if you can get a Sorcerer's Apprentice behind it, and now it's 4. So just keep that in mind. If they keep printing cards for Mage that allow them to generate or discover cards that are not in the deck, and get them at a discount, especially, then that is what makes certain spells and certain effects on spells existing being good, but not necessarily in your collection, because you can just get them arbitrarily without putting them in the deck. So that's just something you're going to keep aware of with anything, not just Luna's Pocket Galaxy and Primordial Glyph.
Yeah, I agree with you. Astromancer, which is the card that summons it's kind of like Spiteful Summoner, except for Mage only. It summons a minion based on the size of your hand. And cool card. It's definitely a one-of kind of inclusion in a control Mage deck. But if you have 2, dust it. Don't even think twice, because nobody runs 2 of those if they run any at all. And Unexpected Results is it's an epic card. It has potential for fun and random things that are funny to watch on trolling videos. But if your collection is not robust, get rid of it. It's not going to do much work for you. Any comments, follow up on Mage, or are we going to move to Paladin?
I just think that you made a really good point of being like, do I like playing this kind of deck? Is this my jam? And if I don't like playing Control Mage, which I never have and never will, and that's like the only place this card fits, and it doesn't and never will fit in the kind that I do like, which is like aggressive Tempo Mage, then if I know that, then I can dust it and not feel bad about it, because I know I'm never going to play it. Yeah.
And it's very important that you understand that about yourself. Now, if you don't know what you don't know, like I don't know what I like. I don't know what's my jam. I'm sort of new to the game. I don't know if I like Mage. I don't know if I like Paladin. Then just reserve your judgment a little longer or something. Like for me, like I have all the Warrior cards. Warrior is my only non-golden class. Last weekend, I played Warrior for hours. And after 3 games, after 3 total games, I was just like, man, I like what I'm doing here, but I'm the kind of person, I'm not patient enough to play, a half an hour game followed by another half an hour game. I don't want to do that.
You totally got me, Grant. I did not see that coming.
I mean, I played a lot of Warrior last month, and I had a positive win rate with it, or last weekend, but it was just like, man, I don't want to do a month of this. I don't have it in me. I just don't have the stomach for it. So, so if I have all these Warrior cards and I don't want to get rid of them, but dang, there's so many other things I'd rather play. And if you find yourself feeling, fatigued, no pun intended, maybe it was pun intended, by playing Warrior, then play something else or focus your energies and your dust on other things. Okay, moving on to Paladin though. Paladin, in terms of like their legendaries and stuff, and like their expensive cards, just I kind of think there was nothing kind of rung my bell, I guess you could say, and maybe even the communities. I mean, I think people tried it, but I haven't seen any of it on the ladder at least. But the ones that were worth keeping anyways, or crafting and don't dust them for any reason, is Glowtron and Mechanoegg. They're both cheap. You'll probably pull them already, but they seem to have application, and I have seen these in kind of like odd Paladin lists. I mean, putting a Mechanoegg and then like magnetizing it to something, or I mean, there's all kinds of things they can do with it that make it really ugly, like Blessing of Kings or putting a Spike Ridge Steed, depending on what the build is. It doesn't, I guess we're not talking odd Paladin anymore. It seems like a pretty strong card, could potentially be really good in the future. But if you have Crystal Smith Kangor, Prismatic Lens, which is an epic, or Kangor's Endless Army, man, they might have future application, but they're just kind of underwhelming. And if you don't know how you would use them and you need dust, by all means, dust those cards. I don't see... Kangor's Endless Army did have a little bit of play when people were toying around with Mech Paladin.
They tried to make it work, but honestly, it was underwhelming for the cost.
It's too much for not enough,
Yeah.
So, and
I
I mean, I had a... What?
I was going to say, I feel like most of the cards in Paladin are the ones that are just like, this could go either way every time I get new cards. And it's real close. It's real close, especially with Kangor. That's a card I think we talked about in our card reviews. Are like, this is a card to watch every time we get new stuff.
Yeah. Well, Kangor has potential for sure, but
Prismatic Lens.
The resurrect mechanic is just kind of like it gives us flashbacks of Priest. It's like, please no, don't make another resurrect everything that was killed kind of deck.
The only thing that I've seen people doing with Kangors now is running a fairly heavy minion-based list with one or two prismatic lenses and fairly cheap minions, or like mid-rangey minions that kind of cap off pretty early, like 5, 6, or 7 at tops, and then Kangors to draw that with the lens and play it. So you can play it super quickly, and you try to close out the game in one burst turn with it. By running a bunch of rush minions, by running the Mechanoeggs and Ziliacs and stuff like that. And the power in Kangor's army is building one or two minions that look pretty good when you res them back. And then when you get the Mechanoegg down, the Robosaur that comes out as an 8/8 actually counts. So what you do is you try to get an egg down, the egg and the Robosaur are dead, and then you can also hope that somewhere along the line Ziliax has fused to one of those minions or has been played. And then you get all three of them for really cheap, and you can get a free trade out of the Ziliax once it comes back. So that's kind of how that list works. And that being said, if there is down the line some list that can run a similar setup with Prismatic Lens, being hey, let's try to get this on tempo, let's try to just use it to draw 2 cards, and we're not going to sacrifice a whole lot of things to it to get it, and then we can just play like Avenging Wrath for like 3 mana. And close out a game. Like, that's pretty nuts. And there could also be other cards that are coming out in the future that can do something like that. So just keep Prismatic Lens online. It's a really
you've talked
card.
before, Rob, about cards needing too many things to go right and to line up, and that's what that is. It ended up being something that just required way too much of you, and unless it's like you play this and the game ends kind of card, it's not worth it, and that's not what it ended up being. So right now, go ahead and dust it.
Just keep that in mind. If the card does something that's really crazy or really cool and the game doesn't end, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
Speaking of game ending when a card does something really cool, let's move on to Priest.
Yeah.
So,
story of their lives.
Right.
Yeah, right?
So, Priest was, in a lot of ways, is like Paladin is in their really expensive high dust cards, I should say. They weren't really terribly useful, albeit they make fantastic Trollden videos. I'll just talk about the dust ones first. Was Power Word Replicate. It's a epic card that replicates a minion as a 5/5. So if you replicate something that has like an aura effect, like a Malagos +5 or a Velen or something, that's great. But it's tough because you have to use a good amount of mana to replicate a minion because all those aura minions typically have high cost. It's kind of clunky. It doesn't work so great. So if you have replicate, I wouldn't feel bad about dusting it. Zarek's cloning gallery. I had a golden one of those, and I dusted it to make my golden whizbang because I was like, I don't see myself doing this one. I've seen some of the combos with it that I thought were pretty neat, but I didn't see myself
deck building gallery more like.
Well, I saw a Trollden video where a bro played Zarek's cloning gallery and pulled 7 1/1 Velens and hit the dude in the face for 640 damage with one mind blast. It was incredible. I guffawed loudly at work. People were like, "What's going on?" I'm like, and you want to explain it, and you realize that bro just played Zarek's cloning gallery into 7 Velens and he hit the dude in the face for 640.
Oh my goodness.
And like they would look at it and go, "What the heck did they just say?" You don't realize how niche your experiences in life can be sometimes, until you put them into words.
We are reminded
That's a
every
sentence
day.
for the
That's why we
ages.
have a podcast.
So,
Oh my goodness.
that card, don't feel bad. I wouldn't feel bad about dusting it anyways. And Zarek Master Cloner, I think it has some potential future application, maybe, but I just haven't seen it utilized. Nobody's really experimenting with it. So if unless you have a good priest collection, because I think those cards really necessitate having high level minions, dragons, Velen, things like that, combo pieces. I would say that those cards are really they're rough. They're either 31st inclusions or they're just not terribly useful for you, especially if your card collection is not too full. The only card I would maybe consider crafting out of the new set would be Reckless Experimenter. And that's if you're really keen on running the Mecha Cthulhu. And only one copy then. So if you have two, just get rid of the other one, or just save it for your dust bank for later,
It's basically great, only for the combo, right? Like that's it.
That's it.
You want to play the combo, you need this card. That's it.
It has potential for other things, especially if some other Death Rattle minions come out in the future. So I could see that one as being a good card. But again, I don't know that you would want two of them per se because it kills your stuff, right? I mean, so unless you're ending the game like with Mecha Cthulhu, like we just talked about, or Rob had mentioned, it feels like it's like, hey, I played a bunch of stuff and now I don't get it anymore. Oh, womp womp. It's almost like you're bait and switching yourself,
The fact that this got used with Mecha Cthulhu shows how much niche this card has to have to do something. Because it's like, okay, so if I play this card, then my Ticking Abominations are 1. That's 7 mana. Okay, so I have 3 left over. I need to get this Mecha Cthulhu on the board and dead now. So what can I do? And they're going to put the card, I literally can't remember the name of it, that Coffin Crasher. So that's
Coffin Crasher.
3 mana. So okay, that's 10 mana, right? 5 and then Coffin Crasher. And then you have the other 2 Ticking Abominations that do 5 to the board. They all trigger at the same time. Boom, 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 boom. My whole board's dead. Mecha Cthulhu comes onto the board and also dies, and then I win the game. Awesome. And the weird thing is not only is this super niche for one deck, to give you an idea how usable the card is, this actually is, like, when it does something well, and it does something well in that niche, the game is over, and it's good enough. Okay, so the card is good enough because it fulfills
the box.
Checking the box.
You win.
Does it do something really crazy and really cool? Yes. Does it win you the game on the turn that it's played? In that context, yes. Out of that context, no. So it's good in that context and bad and not. And I'm really curious how this card's going to affect the next 2 years of play, to be honest, because I feel like they could do some pretty nutty things with designing Death Rattle cards in the neutral game that could be really stupid, and then you put it in Priest with this guy, and it's like, okay, now we have a game. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting because Reckless Experimenter is a very niche card. Like, it has kind of very super limited application. But think about Mecha Cthulhu. That card.
That's a super niche application.
It is. That's as niche as you can get. All the conditions that have to be met for that thing to work. It better do something incredible, like insta kill the opponent, no matter what their health is or their armor is. Yeah. So I mean, it's cool though. I'm glad that stuff exists, and if that's the kind of thing you want to play, then craft it, make it. Okay, moving on to Rogue. Rogue. I always make a point of having all the Rogue cards whenever I get a new set because Valera is Bay. Yes, I said that. So I say this in the craft keep category because I see people playing it, especially if you're at rank 5, you'll see this a lot. But Pogo Hopper, which is the robot bunny that every time you play a new version of it, it's buffed. It's like a +1/+1. Is it +1/+1 or +2/2?
2.
I can't. It's 2. I'm not looking at the screen apparently. But
It's not on the screen.
that it's a rare, so it's not hard to acquire, but it makes for some nutty combos. I mean, having a board full of 27/27s, stuff like that, and bigger is pretty intimidating. Necrium Blade is the rogue weapon that triggers a death rattle. When it breaks, it triggers a death rattle of a minion on board. Or is it all of them? Is it all of them or just the one or just one?
A random one.
A random one. Yeah, Necrium Blade.
Necrium Blade is a random one, but you can
It's a random one.
make it work for you.
But people were using that to like pull out a 1/1 Malagos and then kill you. Academic Espionage is it's the card that inserts 10 cards from your opponent's class into your deck, and they all cost 1. Super cool, super fun. Kind of niche. It's not something that you necessarily are going to start climbing ladder with, but dang, it makes for some funny Trollden videos. Depending what kind of style you want to play.
Best card for Rogue fans, like Savitz loves this card, and Tice. This is just endless entertainment hours in making a deck. There's so many Johnny cards, right, Grant? Like this set, there's a lot of Johnny cards that are like decently powerful, and in that they can literally win you the game, or they are just like so anti-tempo that when you do play them, the cost-effective nature of doing them that turn sometimes loses you the game. But it's not as common as it looks. It's kind of not as obvious.
It embodies the feeling of Miracle Rogue because it's always getting your combos off. So everything becomes 1 mana. You can always use all of those cards you can use as a combo enabler. And then just being able to do a ridiculous amount of thing in one turn when you felt like they were behind and all of a sudden they're just playing card after card after card after card. So it excites the imagination for Rogue for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love Rogue is because a skilled rogue player can just make magic happen. Like stuff can just come out of nowhere, and you're like, "What the? I couldn't have planned for that. I'm not a genius, to plan for having stuff they can just do because hey, you see the matrix comes together and voila, you win the game.
The Matrix.
Seeing all the numbers, man. And then the last one for Craft's Keep is the Necrium Vial, which kind of goes nicely with the Necrium Blade and pulling off those type of combo he kind of plays. Now, again, these cards, while I would probably keep them because I like Rogue, at the same time, if you're not a Rogue player, get rid of them because they have very kind of specific applications. Not, I wouldn't say niche, but you're kind of wanting to do one type of thing. You're wanting to do death rattly kinds of things,
Well, here's the thing that I've learned. People who don't like playing Rogue don't like it because it's kind of standoffish and complicated and hard to understand, which all of these cards kind of work within that purview. And then anytime people who don't play Rogue is when it's minion heavy and basic and it's tempo or it's aggro, which is when I play it. So if any of these cards here fit into that kind of deck, which is just like minion heavy, tempo, aggro, then I could see you being able to play it whether or not you're a Rogue player.
Yeah.
But if they fit into the ones that are like crazy combos and miracly coming out of nowhere and doing a bunch of weird things, then maybe not for you if you're not a Rogue player.
Yeah, I agree with you. Honestly, and the dusting, the legendaries for Rogue, while I think they're kind of cool, especially Myra's Unstable Element, because I've certainly won a lot of games with that card. If you're not way into Rogue and you're not into its vibe, I guess you could say just get rid of the legendaries because like Myra, I haven't played it once. I haven't seen it. I think I saw somebody tinkering with it at rank 5 and played it, but it didn't do anything. It might have potential going down the road, but it's just a little bit too random, I think. And I just don't think that if you're trying to build decks to do a particular thing that you're looking to do, that deck is that card may not be your thing. Shaman.
Shaman. Let's
Shaman.
go.
So
Obligated.
interesting thing about Shaman is I was looking at it and I thought, Electro Storm Surge is good, Stormbringer's good, Thunderhead's good. Those are the 3 cards I thought that really stuck out from the set for Shaman, in terms of like the more expensive ones.
Can you just refresh my memory? What they are?
Electro Storm Surge. Okay, go ahead,
Storm
Rob.
Scourge is a 3-mana 3/3 elemental with the battle cry. Your next spell this turn casts twice. Stormbringer is a 7-mana spell. Transform your minions into random legendary ones. And Thunderhead is a 4-mana 3/5 elemental. After you play a card with Overload, summon 2 1/1 sparks with Rush. Summon, not put them in your hand.
Right.
Okay, Stormbringer burned me a lot. That ended up being like a lot of mana for like, you might not just win the game on that turn. So what we were talking about before earlier this episode, it doesn't meet the requirements of I just paid a lot of mana to do a thing and I better win.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to say that is a possible, even though it's so fun.
Yeah, that's what you have to weigh here, right? Is if you're playing Stormbringer, you're kind of playing for that. All right, I got a board full of totems. Here we go, baby. Papa needs a new pair of shoes,
Garrosh, Hellscream, and
a bunch of Garroshes and a bunch of other stuff, I was watching Slissa play it on stream, and she kept getting these awesome. She'd drop it, and it was like, here we go. And it's like, oh, man, it's so cool, And I thought, I'm so glad I have one of those. And I went and played it, and none of that happened for me. So, but it's one of those cards, like, I would have a hard time probably justifying the craft, but I don't think I would dust it. You know what I mean? I think
if you had it and you didn't
if I have it.
If you have it, keep it. But just if you're planning,
but if you don't have it, don't craft it. Yeah.
I have a golden Electra Storm Surge that I got from purchasing the Mega Bundle, and I haven't used it once because the most application it's seen as of now was in Shudderwalk Shaman, and I hate that deck. So, it's Electra sits there, and I say, if I ever need 1600 dust, just because I hate Shudderwalk Shaman, I might dust this, just to spite my own.
Yeah, but
face,
like Rob says, for the future, she is definitely a card that could be really good in decks going forward that have nothing to do with Shudderwok Shaman.
Has this
you're right. That's why I haven't
weird
dusted her.
Context that she fits in, which is a lot of decks can utilize this effect, and has it at a mana pool that is reasonable. And it does fulfill the role where in all of those decks, it has the possibility of ending the game when played. So it's a card you cannot ignore in your collection. And if you plan to play Shaman, it's one of the cards you should have in your toolbox. Whether or not you pull it out of the toolbox is up to you. And that the decks and the metas that it fits in, if it's there, then It's hard to describe in more generic terms, I guess you could say, but the toolbox is probably the best way of putting it. It's like, how do you put it?
She has a lot of modularity associated with her, just how she's built.
I would probably equivocate it to having like a Phillips head and a flat head. You want to make sure they do the same things, and you have the same you have the same screwdriver in your thing, but sometimes it's a lot easier to do certain things with just that flathead than it is to have like a Phillips more like specific type of a screwdriver, if that makes sense. But let's keep going. We covered Stormbringer. Let's talk Thunderhead. Yeah, Thunderhead is a
go ahead, Rob. Do it.
Nuts
go for
card.
it.
Nuts card. Shaman's core mechanic is in the listing of if you do something with the core mechanic of your class, you're rewarded by getting 2 extra damage on the board if your board's empty enough. And the sparks have proven to be insane when you're playing Thunderhead on curve. It's just it passes what we call the vanilla test, which means it's good enough by itself without any effect. It doesn't punish you for doing anything. It just puts it on the board. And then if you can set up a turn where you do things that are historically a big issue for Shaman, which is playing an overload card that says do 2 damage to all minions or 3 if you high roll, aka Lightning Storm. And sometimes there's those 2 little bugger minions that are left over with 1 health, and it's like, oh, I have a Thunderhead on board. I'm fine. Because I have 2 little 1/1s to clear it up. So
clean it up.
That's what this card basically ends up doing, is it cleans up all of the damage if you low roll on things you need a high roll. And then in addition to that, if if you need to clear something, you can hit it with a higher damage spell like a lightning bolt and make a lightning bolt into 5 mana or 5 damage if it's hitting a taunt minion. So in some ways it's kind of like spell damage, and in others it's kind of just like shoring up weaknesses, and it's a really elegant way, instead of just saying Thunderhead, spell damage +1 or spell damage +2. It's like, hey, let's give you this cool spark thing and let's put it on elemental and make it really cool, where it like summons its little buddies from the storm. Like that's kind of the theme. So
That's really well made. The way you
it's a
explain
very
it like
excellent
that.
made card, and maybe my favorite card in the set as far as pure design. That's non-legendary.
Appa from Coin Concede was freaking out about this card and saying stuff on Twitter like, "Man, why aren't people playing this? Why aren't people talking about this card?" Because he's a Shaman nut, right? Anybody who listens to his show would know that. And if you didn't know that, now you know. But if I'm thinking to myself, if Appa thinks it's a good card, it's probably a really good card. You know, I'll take his word for it. I guess we'll move along now. One of the cards you might consider dusting from the Shaman set is Omega Mind, which is a 2-cost 2/3 battle cry. If you have 10 mana crystals, your spells have lifesteal this turn.
No.
There's some potential for this, like late game control, possibly. You know, like a volcano giving you 15 health. That'd be sweet, right?
Have we ever had a late game control Shaman build? Like in Hearthstone?
Well,
Yeah, every expansion.
yeah. There's always been people who've been trying it. What was it? Frodan had that
Shaman for a
Bog
long
Champ.
time.
Bog Champ one, and there's always the ones with like the giants and stuff. There's somebody tries to make one. It used to be better, I think, in earlier Hearthstone than it is now, but it does exist. It's kind of like how we've wanted to have a later game hunter for so long, and people tried it, and finally it kind of has come to pass with the current incarnations of Death Rattle, which is somewhere between mid range and control.
They're usually called
depending on how you look at it.
Concede Shaman is the label, or
Yes.
or what's the other one?
Okay. All right.
What's the other one?
Feels
They're
real bad.
giants. It's basically like
I think it's
Ancestral
my
Spirit
interpretation of
and stuff.
control, because decks that are built for control to me have a lot of removal in them and aren't very minion heavy. That's kind of the way my brain interprets what control is. They're just trying to make it to the late game, and so there's like a lot of removal mechanics. I don't really see Shaman like
the way that Shaman runs it is similar to Warrior did in the early days, where it had like some good single target removal, lots of armor, and then like big minions. This one instead just puts big minions behind taunts, and then if you kill them, they come back because of reincarnation and ancestral spirit and heal on the minions and stuff. It's just like, when I get super low on health, I'm going to have a couple tools to heal me, and then I'm going to put a taunt down like a earth elemental that's 7/8 with taunt, and then I'm going to put something that if it dies, I get it back. And then I'm going to duplicate it, and I have 3 of them because I used my spellstone. It's just like, hey, here's a minion, and it has taunt, and it's really big, and you have to kill it. And then by the time you're ready to kill it, there's 3 more. And it's just like, you're not going to... It's a lot. I think I would honestly compare it to the way Cube Lock was, but it did it without cubes before cubes existed.
Right.
That's kind of what it did. It just puts taunts out, and it says, good luck. You have to get through all of this. And if they can't get through it and they get to fatigue, and you get to fatigue, you've got heals, you've got taunts. And by the time they're wasted all their resources trying to get through your taunts just kill them anyways.
Yeah, it's kind of the premise that, like if you're playing Taunt Druid, and see, Taunt Druid did the same thing with the Spider. That's and even Death Rattle Hunter can do it if you get the Grizzlies. I mean, you put up a wall of 312 Grizzlies, nobody gets through that. You know what I mean?
Except
Just
for
can't.
Hex and
There's
execute.
very few things that can do it, you know. You have to have the exact right answers for decks like that. Concede Shaman, Taunt Druid. If you don't have the exact answer, or you kill them before they get there, that's the only 2 ways around it, which is fine, right? Those are both viable strategies of playing.
Sure.
So,
well, Omega Agent to me has kind of like a personality problem, because it's trying to do things that are kind of don't work together well. Like when you have 10 mana, do you also have a bunch of burn cards in your hand that you're going to do damage with and also heal yourself at the same time? Like, that doesn't even seem like a deck
what it does
that...
at 10 mana being bad. Eve, I think the problem with this card is it doesn't do enough to offset it if you have to play it on tempo.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, like, what my hand looks like on the turn that I want to play this.
Yeah.
And those things don't match up very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would agree to that, because when you get around to playing this for the 10 mana payoff, you look at all the other Mega Cards and they do insane stuff, and then this one's just like, yeah, your stuff has lifesteal and you can heal off of them. You know,
Yeah.
it's like it's really good, but they're not like, okay, your move now. You know, like that's what the other
Yeah.
Mega Cards are doing.
It's like, I
It's
just
like,
healed up a
I
bunch.
just healed.
I
dude.
dare you
Yeah.
to keep playing this game.
I'm healthy.
We'll continue on to another
I ate my
turn.
veggies today.
Well,
Yeah.
and in the current meta, I'm learning, having played Warrior, but also thinking about just if your move during a game is I'm gonna heal up, that's either a last ditch move or it's not good enough, depending on what
Yeah.
this board state is. You know, it
Yeah.
feels like for example, we've been finding out that Tempo Mage, the current incarnation of it, has a very good chance of beating an Odd Warrior. You know, because it can put pressure on so much. So if a warrior's play is to armor up, you're going to lose. Okay, you did shield block and hero power for 9 armor. Big bloody freaking da. You know, I'm just going to keep busting you in the face. You know, so healing
they have like
has,
50 damage in like the top 15 cards of their deck. You know,
and even sometimes with like Shudderwalk Shaman, if they do healing rain on themselves, but you have an
Doesn't
awesome
even
board and they
matter.
can't clear it, it doesn't even matter. You know, it just buys them a turn maybe to draw their Shudderwalk.
right?
It has to go along with other things as well. Yeah.
So, all right, Warlock. So, Warlock has been interesting. I guess we'll talk about the keep/craft is the Solarium. If you're playing Zoo, man, Solarium is so good. And I think it has future application, but I think it really is strong in more board-centric decks because the card is you play it and you draw 3 cards from your deck and you have to play on that turn or they get discarded.
So they
So-
have to be low cost.
You want them to be low cost, and you don't want to play it before turn 5. You want to play it like 5 or later. But man, that card can just repopulate your board really fast, and it's really, really, really cool. And it's really efficient. I like that card a lot. I have one. If you have it, keep it. Unless you just hate Warlock and you never ever want to play Warlock again because you think that's like Satan's class or something like that. I don't know.
Because the
Um,
Void Lords just killed me.
You know.
They killed me so bad,
the
and I just never
devil's
want to go back
class.
again.
It's the Devil's class. Solarium. So great card. Now dusting options. The Ectomancy. Ectomancy is a card that basically says summon copies of all demons you control. Now that has some potential, right? We were talking, I think, back in card reviews on how even in like a cube block, that could be an efficient way to like make a lot of extra Doom Guards or Void Lords on your board. Especially maybe post Gul'dan, it could be backbreaking. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it on ladder. I haven't heard anybody talking about it. So
it was a week 1 card in a Q block that was from the previous meta deck, and it was like a
Right.
1 swap card, and it was like, okay.
yeah, it's a good card, right? If you look at it, yeah, that sounds like a good thing to do, but it's not really doing much work. So, if you have 2 of them, get rid of one. Don't feel bad. Maybe even get rid of both if you just need dust. Dr. Morrigan is the class legendary, and she's just not seeing any play. She kind of does interesting things. What?
She
What does
goes
she do
into your
again?
deck and
After-
swaps out with another card.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's not super exciting or world ending either.
Swap with a minion in your
Ectomancy, I
deck.
think, would have been better if we didn't already have Gul'dan and the cube.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it would be. It would.
And eventually
even
when
then
they
it's-
rotate
I
out...
still don't think she would be used.
No,
Morgan
not
would-
Morgan. Ectomancy.
Ectomancy.
Sorry,
Oh,
Ectomancy.
Okay.
But I can see possibly if in the next expansion we get a bunch of good demons. Because it's demon-centric, right? Ectomancy has to be demons.
Yeah, demons. But
so is Ectomancy legendary or
it's
epic?
it's an epic.
Okay,
so-
so maybe one of.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
Sorry, I
that's
just
what we
wanted
were
to say
saying.
that, and then we can move forward.
You just
Gotta get it off my
get
chest,
straight.
okay? That's
I like Demon Warlock. I have always loved the demon versions, and I haven't seen it in a while. So when I saw this, I was like, demon again. But yeah, it didn't happen.
I could see Ectomancy being a little better in Wild if you play a lot
Yes.
of Wild because more than one Mal'Ganis is always a good thing. So, Dr. Morgan, it's too high costed, and I don't know if it's strong enough to do. I could see future application, and I could see myself even crafting it just to try it later, like maybe next year, depending on what's out. But if you
Like you're
have
like
it,
the 1%.
like
You
like
have all the things already.
I dusted my daughters to create basically so we could work on getting her a Kaliseth. And Kaliseth has already, in a handful of games, done more work than Morgan has probably done for the entire Hearthstone community at large. You know, so and that
Or
sounds a
all of
little
the other
hyperbolic,
cards that
I
did
know.
something similar, like
Yeah,
I don't know, the
Madame
card that we have
Goya.
in Madame Goya. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Omega Agent. Now, Omega
Wait a
Agent.
minute.
What?
You
Yes.
just said Omega Agent and Shaman. Do they have two of the same
It
card
was
here?
Omega Mind and Shaman. I don't know. I might have.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Omega
My
Mind.
giant
Omega
Druid.
Mind. Yeah,
Omega Mind.
I saw that movie the other day. It was funny.
It's a good movie.
So Omega Agent is the card that's kind of like Doppelgangster, right? You have 10 mana in your hand. You play it. You get 2 other copies of it. So it's 3, 4, 5s. It was recently in a control kind of warlock. Last month I was up around rank 2, high rank 2, and that was a top tier 1 deck in HS Replay. And I was like, oh, sweet. So I played it, and yeah, it's kind of neat. It late game really strong when you can just drop that for 4 mana and get 3, 4, 5s on the board. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? But
card right there.
yeah, that's a card that I would keep an eye on. But you might necessarily it's not seeing a ton of play now,
Right.
but that doesn't mean it won't. So you kind of have to weigh that one. I wouldn't freak out if you dusted it because you just needed 200 dust or whatever, or 100 dust. I mean, if I had a golden one, I'd probably dust it for sure. But I'm not going to say go ahead and do it. Just, safe, no your safety nets there. Don't worry about it. But
you get rid of it, right?
Yeah. It's kind of, you just make the choice and, just live with it, I guess. But
Does
I
it
do
have
think it's a
Echo?
pretty good card. No, it doesn't have Echo.
What is? how
Summons
does
a
it-
copy
what is
of
the
itself
wording?
twice. At 10
Okay,
mana.
so if you have the Warlock card that buffs, like, what is it? The leftmost card in your hand or the rightmost card in your hand?
Doubling imp.
No? Well, no. The
Does it work on this like it would on Doubling Imp? The spell.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's like Velen fusion, I think.
yeah.
I'll look it up real quick while you guys are talking, but let's move on to
Well,
Warrior for now. We can come back
Warrior.
to that.
Yeah, Warrior. So Warrior had some interesting stuff come out that nobody thought would be good, and then it ended up being good. For example, Dinomatic. Dinomatic does 5 damage to any minions on the board that are not mechs. Can be your own, can be your opponent's. In the current Odd Warrior builds, so the more controlling ones, it's just like it's almost like a insta kill on a minion, or kills a wimpy board, or really does a lot of work on like Paladin and Rogue minions. You just drop it, boom. You can almost kill stuff. Super Collider, we were like, oh, I don't know if that weapon's very good.
I loved it, by the
Did you?
way.
Well,
Yes,
I was
did.
like, I was way down on it. I did not
poo-pooed
think it
this
was.
card.
You guys talked me out of loving it because I watched it on the video and I loved the way it worked and I was like, this is amazing. And you were like, no, it isn't, Eve.
Well, Eve, you were right. It is amazing. That card gives you so much gas. I mean, I think I won a game the other day. Well, the other day, one of my 3 Warrior games last weekend, which was actually more than that. But I was playing against
Infusion. That's the
Soul
card,
Infusion. Shame on us for getting modern cards. But I was playing against a Pogo Hopper Rogue, and bro had like a 28 something or other, and then another big one sitting next to it, and I just super collided it in the other one and bought myself another turn and ended up winning, because, it's pretty cool to have a minion do 28 damage to another minion. You know what I mean? It's just a good card. I think you'll be seeing that in any control warrior list for the next 2 years. Dr. Boom Mad Genius is not just a good card because of what it can do with all the hero powers and shenanigans. It's a fun card. Being able to pull out random mechs, being able to do damage to face, having rush on all your mechs is really cool. I'm kind of sad we haven't seen it like a mech warrior yet. I don't know that it's good enough yet, but Dr. Boom is a good choice. If you have it, definitely don't get rid of it. And it's cool to listen to Dr. Boom with his
something cool about Super Collider that I was considering, like why people haven't been doing this is mostly because of Odd Warrior giving you a lot of benefits. But if there's a world where odd decks are kind of considered to be just about as even as not running odd and just going straight full warrior, with Super Collider you can pair it with a a Cruel Taskmaster on your enemy minions, and hit the card that has been Cruel Taskmaster to give it like 2 attack more, and then 1 attack or 1 health less. Then hit that with a Super Collider, and you can take 2 more damage from a weaker minion, and that weaker minion or stronger minion might die, and do more damage to something else on the side. So they might actually just kill each other, right? Is that how?
Yeah.
Or am I misunderstanding how this works?
No,
like,
yep,
does
that's
the
it.
minion take health, like the damage from
Yep.
the other minion? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds about right to me. I mean, you make decisions like that when you play the Control Warrior deck. You say, all right, I'm going to take 1 health off him, and if I do X, Y, and Z, and
Does it
you know,
die?
you start calculating it up. But it's a cool card like that because it's not just all right. Okay, do I have 3 damage on a weapon, or I go with face to kill that weapon? You know, or I mean, I take my face and kill that minion. That's what I'm trying to say.
My face.
I'm glad you put fun cards in here too, Grant.
Yeah, well, I believe in having fun, and like I'll be honest, I think it's good for me as a person to remember that it's okay to play decks that maybe are suboptimal in the sense of like, yeah, they're not going to climb me ladder, but like when I play with my whiz-bang decks, I don't always know what's going to happen, and sometimes the games end up going real kooky and crazy, and it's just like, man, I feel rejuvenated and I have joy in my heart again because I played something fun.
Instead of 3 warrior decks.
I like Warrior, but not. I broke 300 wins finally. I have less than 200 to go, and I don't want to play it. Too much time. So dusting. If you have a Beryllium Nullifier, it's the 3/8 mech that basically can't be targeted. What? Burrito Nullifier.
Burrito Nullifier. Delete your burritos. Lose the game.
Delete the burritos.
So it's just
It's a cool card when you pull it off Dr. Boom. You know, you pull it off one of Dr. Boom's hero powers, and you attach it onto one of your little 1/1 dudes. Yeah, that's what I mean. You discover it. It's cool like that. And I've certainly won games with it, but it's not a card I really am gonna put in my deck. Maybe a one of maybe. And Boomship is another one. Now, Boomship, I could see future application in a late warrior. It's cool because it puts stuff on the board, you know. And I thought maybe that long game Control Warrior that's not odd or even could do something with Boomship, but it's just a little bit slow. That deck just doesn't do enough. But I don't know that I would just dust that one willy-nilly. I would only dust that if you're not going to play Warrior. You know, I don't know that I would
you
even...
don't like... Well, what kind of deck does it fit into?
Hyper Control. Like a big Warrior deck, you know, where you're running
you don't like Hyper Control Warrior.
What's the warrior
is
weapon?
also
The Woe Cleaver?
Yeah, Woe Cleaver plus Recruit Warrior plus Control, or you can even run a full like tempo build with Dead Man's Hand in this card. So anytime you run Dead Man's Hand, your win condition is making sure that the cards in your hand are something to do with card draw, another Dead Man's Hand, so you can keep the infinite loop going, a single copy of Boomship, and then 1 or 2 minions. So every time you run those cards, you're drawing more of them. You're getting Boomship back in your hand. You use Boomship to dump the next turn, and you're just jumping all of the minions out in your hand, clear it out for the next time that you want, and you just keep this cycle going.
Yeah.
And if everything Rob just said made you tired, then just dust it.
Yeah, we got these little like litmus tests that we're like giving you right now that you don't even feeding you.
If you're hearing it and going, no, dear God, no, then dust it and make something fun that will make you
Your ears
happy.
and eyes glaze when you hear the word warrior, then get out of my side.
I guess we'll move on to the neutrals, and then we can probably say thank you to special people and call it a show. All right, so if you pulled in the neutral cards, Omega Defender, that's a pretty good card.
One of the Omegas is actually decent?
Yeah, Omega Defender. Now, I'm going to say it's a good card in that I think it wasn't really talked about too much because it's a 4-cost card, and it might be a one of or like a 31st card, but it's actually really strong. It was in that Warlock deck I was talking about earlier. It reads, if you don't know what it is, it's a 2/6 for 4. Reads Taunt, Battlecry. If you have 10 mana crystals, gain 10 attack. So being able to put a 10/6 on board for 4 late game can be very useful, especially if you're in a top deck war or something like that, because that's a minion you have to do something with. And even if you just play it as a 4/2/6, It's kind of like what's that dragon that used to be in Priest? Twilight
Guardian.
Guardian, Twilight Guardian. It reminds me a lot of that without the +1 buff to the attack. So that's a fine card. If you have it, you might consider keeping it, especially for like a taunt warrior. It might be all right as an inclusion if you're missing something, or
it's a Stegodon. If
it's a
it doesn't have
Stegodon,
the
or
buff.
yeah. But if you pull it late game, you're happy. You're like, yeah, all right, man, here we go. So I liked that card a lot. That's more of a personal preference for me. I don't know that I would just dust that one willy-nilly unless I really needed it, especially because it's neutral. It has a lot more application. And I think neutrals are the kinds of cards where I'm probably the most reluctant to dust because they have the most possibility
General
for being
purpose.
included.
Yeah.
The
Over
next
time.
one is Ziliax. Now, Ziliax, I have to say, when I first saw it, I thought, okay, that looks all right. You know, it has Russian lifesteal and it's got Divine Shield, and it's a mech
It has
with
all the
Magnetite.
words.
It has all the words.
keywords.
It seems like it's going to be pretty versatile, but let me tell you, man, Ziliax can just flat out save your butt. You know, he can stop somebody from delivering lethal. It can give you enough health just to survive to pull off what you need to do. Ziliax has a lot of options, and I know a lot of people have just been kind of like including it in a deck, like in Hunter decks in particular, and Warlock decks and Warrior decks, just because, well, it gives you life and it slows them down. I mean, dang, what else could you want? So I think it's just a good card. If you have just dust laying around and you want to, I want to craft a legendary, which one do I not have? If you don't have Ziliax and you want to include it in just about anything, it seems like it's pretty good. Next is Subject 9. Now, Subject 9, I've actually been seeing that more than I thought I would ever see it.
Yeah, surprised the heck out of me.
Yeah, Subject 9 it gives you 5 secrets in your hand. Boom. Pulls them out.
If they're already in your deck. So that was the
Yeah.
problem when I said you have to put them in your deck to begin with. You have to put a
Yeah.
certain amount so that when you play this, you get them and you're happy about it.
Turns out thinning
Yeah.
the deck is good, even if it's cards that you don't necessarily need right then, and even if you're not drawing all 5. 5's crazy, so drawing like 3 is good, right?
Well,
But it's a neutral.
And I've been playing against. I'm at rank 3 and 3 stars right now, and I've been playing. There's been a lot of Hunter on the ladder, and I'm playing a Death Rattle Hunter, and I've been seeing a lot of Secrets Hunter. And I'll be honest, when they put Subject 9 down, and then of course you kill it, or when I mean not kill it, they put it down, and then they have all these secrets. They're running like the venom traps, where it puts out a 2/3 Cobra. They're running like a lot of different
Rat
secrets
trap.
that Rat Trap and stuff like that, where you just kind of forget about it, and the next thing you know is you have a 6/6 on board that you got to deal with. And you're like, well, crap, what am I supposed to do with that? There's a lot of just like old Secret Paladin used to confuse people, because if you don't know how to like test the secrets in the right order, you're gonna make a misplay or a suboptimal play, and then they're gonna be able to like take tempo over, and then you're done because all of their secrets do good things. You know what I mean? So I think Subject 9 is, if you want to play that kind of deck and that seems fun to you, I think you could craft it safely and be happy with your choice, because it seems like a good card. This is probably me being biased, but Whizbang the Wonderful. Man, it's the best friend request ever. And I crafted it in golden because I just thought, man, what's the downside of having everything golden? Even the coin is golden. That's just so cool. But if you just want to have it, just to have it, as you shoot ladder with that deck, if you don't ever know what to want to play, like if you're one of those people who goes to a restaurant and can never decide what to eat on the menu, or you go to a candy store and you can never decide which one you want to buy, or you go to a convenience store like me and you look at the wall of soda and whatnot, and you never know what you want to drink. Whizbang might be your Netflix. What do I want to watch? Oh my
Whizbang and
gosh, so many
chill.
choices. Whizbang and chill. Gosh,
That's the name of my stream title from now on, even if I'm playing Warcraft.
Whizbang and chill. Yeah.
Here's my
So-
favorite thing about it is that going forward, they're going to continue to support it. So you start a brand new meta and you don't have all the cards yet and you can't make all the decks yet. You play Whizbang and suddenly you have what Blizzard created and thinks might be a decent deck out of the cards that they just gave you for that expansion.
Yeah.
Like, that's really good.
All right, I'm
Well-
gonna be the one guy that poo-poos this card because there's always that guy out there.
Be our guest. We still love you. You know,
It doesn't
family
mean
loves
anything
family.
other than
and
I'm
if they
happy that
screw
you
up,
guys enjoy the card. That's it. It's like, that's great. I would dust this card immediately. It's just like,
Well-
it doesn't win me games. It does something fun. I can go hang out with my friends. I can do all of these things that you're saying, but none of those things are why I want this card, and I don't want that card anymore. So I'm gone. I want
That's
to go
fair.
build my
Okay,
own decks.
yeah. All right.
I can totally subscribe to that, even though I don't. I mean, I could,
For me,
and-
at the beginning of a new expansion is like the most kind of almost stressful and hectic part, trying to figure out what I should craft or what I should even put together. And I have used those decks before as a building block to kind of flip through, okay, what did they make and give us as suggestions? And that looks like kind of like a decent idea of a deck. And I'll probably switch some things up because I don't have all the cards and stuff, but using them as a blueprint to go from. I've done that before at the beginning of expansions, and now I just like have those decks and all the cards.
So to be the dissenting
So-
opinion, to continue this dialogue, right? And also say something that I actually think about the card for a change. And normally I'm making a dissenting argument just for the sake
Devil's
of the argument.
advocate.
Yeah.
Yes.
But now I'm actually like, I feel like I am that argument.
you actually believe your own words?
Yeah. I actually
All right,
believe
I'll
what
hear
I'm
it.
saying.
What now?
Sorry, live
can't
show
wait.
moment, guys. That was more physical humor than audio humor. But if I have a bunch of tools and it's opening day and I'm opening a ton of cards, recipes are great if I just want to jump in. But my fun in an expansion is opening cards and sitting in collection manager for about an hour and making my own decks. And if I want to go sit in and look up decks, I'm going to go to Hearthstone. I'm going to find something that's actually optimized, not something that Blizzard thinks is like a medium par deck with medium deck cards. I want to go make my deck. And if I want to make a deck that's not optimized and new on opening day, by golly, let me do it. And I want to go do that. And if I have a card that says, hey, you can just play all these deck recipes, and even if you don't have all the cards or you do have all the cards, it diminishes in value for me because there's never a time where I want to play this card. In my career as a Hearthstone player, whether it's casual or competitive, in either of my Johnny, Timmy, or Spike mindsets, even when I'm a Timmy, I don't want this card because I want to make my own stuff. You know what I mean?
No,
But
I see your
that's
point.
what
version of
causes
Timmy
me
is different.
stress. Like making my own deck and going through all of the brand new cards that I just got and trying to like put them together and optimize them causes me stress and anxiety. So for me to go to the deck recipes that Blizzard made and take a look at them and go, okay, this is somebody who made these cards and made this game and thinks this will be fun and this will work well together. And then you can take that idea and elevate it over time and be like, that doesn't really work. That's not a good card. Take things out and put things in. That's my wheelhouse.
Right.
Like I'm comfortable doing that. And that makes me happy rather than stressing myself out by trying to make my own deck and I'm not good at it. And I know this. And then just flat out losing because it doesn't have a good curve. It doesn't have all of the tools that it needs. It has too many spells or too many minions or whatever. So that for me, Whiz Bang takes all that anxiety out and goes, you don't even have to worry about it right now. Wait until people have had like a week to put together decent decks. And then you can go to Tempo Storm or whatever and look up the meta decks and start playing those. But for right now, the first opening days of expansion, you can just grab Whiz Bang and go play and have some fun and not worry about it.
So I'm going to circle back and conclude the argument here, which is going
in
back
the
to the
last
original
word.
point of even if I didn't like the card, I'm going to come all the way back around and say the fact that a card exists that a lot of players enjoy that is not competitive in all contexts is good for the game, and I'm extremely excited that this card exists. That doesn't mean personally that I'm going to take advantage of it. So that's what I'm really getting at is I am super happy that cards like this exist and that players are going to craft them in Golden or craft them regular and they're going to enjoy the cards on opening day or any day of the week. And it's not going to – it doesn't affect me. So I want people to go enjoy this card. I really do. And I'm not going to go and tell somebody – like when I have a conversation with somebody, I'm not going to go poo-poo on their desire to go get the card. I'm just simply saying there are players out there that would not want it. If that makes sense.
No, I think both points are equally valid. It's just again, know what kind of player you are and what you want to get out of the game. Yeah, I could see. Yeah, if you were to divide a room in half, I'm sure half would be on Eve's side and half would be on Rob's side. You know,
and it's not
Cool.
even the people on my side would be like, "You guys are wrong." They'd just be like, "That's fine. You guys can go have
Yeah.
fun. Here you go.
have fun doing
I'm
that.
just
We'll go
gonna
make
not
our
have
own
it in my
decks in the
collection.
lab."
You have a great time."
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about stuff to dust. If
Stuff
you
to
need dust.
dust.
Stuff to dust. So, gonna go right out of the gate and say, if you have Mecha Cthulhu, but you don't have all the pieces that to make that niche deck, get rid of it. I crafted one because I really wanted to play a Mecha Cthulhu Priest and know what that was like, and I had dust, so I have one, but I haven't played it in any other decks. But I like having it because it was what I at the time wanted to do. I had the resources and it was fun, so it was an investment in my own personal fun. If you keep your Mecha Cthulhu for the same reasons, or you want to try and do it.
And
But
do
if
you
you're
regret
trying
that?
to, no, I don't. I again, I have enough cards and resources to where it's like, yeah, I might regret it. Like, I probably could have saved it and been more miserly with my stuff. But at the end of the day, like showing people like, dude, check out this new interaction. Watch this Mecha thing blow up their portrait. And like sitting on a school bus coming home from a game with like some students, like watch this and like having the whole bus go, oh dang, like that. Just like that was cool, That was fun. That was worth it. Like, who cares? Maybe I could have spent my dust more optimally, but
I got up
whatever.
to rank 5 using that
Hearthstone
stupid
moments.
deck. Or rank 6.
Nice.
So
Nice.
that's the Johnniest deck that there is playing that in Cthulhu or in Priest, and it's just like, have fun.
And it's really not a bad deck all the way
No,
around.
it's
I mean,
not.
if you're good at playing the deck, you can do work on the ladder. I don't know if you can hit legend with it. Maybe you can. But
I think you can if you play enough games with it. Your matchups aren't terrible.
I just asked because I know people always have anxiety about whether they're going to regret when they dust something for fun, for the funds. And so I just wondered, like, have you ever thought back and been like, I don't know if that was quite worth it? Or it's just like, yeah, I did it. I had fun. Even if I don't have the dust right now for something else, it's fine.
Well, it's kind of like I view it as like people spending money to go visit Disney. I mean, going to Disney World costs thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? To get there, to house yourself for any kind of time, to buy the tickets, all that stuff. It costs money. And when you do it, you're kind of going, I know I'm spending this large investment, and I could probably be Ebenezer Scrooge and say, well, I really shouldn't have probably spent $4,000 to go to Disney. And I wish I had that money back. And you could poo-poo, yeah, I had a great time, but I really probably shouldn't have spent the money. It's like, well, that's a decision you got to make a little bit more carefully up front. But I think if you know it's fun and you're going into it, you have to weigh the cost carefully. Enjoy it. Be glad you did it. Just, hey, I have a life experience.
I have a Cthulhu life experience now.
I have a Cthulhu life experience of watching like flashes of white light all over my screen that caused me to get a headache. No.
Now, Grant, we're kind of running really long, and I'd like to finish this show in the next 5 minutes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and broad brush the rest of the stuff that's in there. You have you have Crystallizer, Weaponized Pinata, C4 Bomber, Star Aligner, Holomancer, and Loose Specimen in the category for epics, as well as Harbinger Celestia in the epic in the legendary category. Consider the cards not relatively being played. Again, they're fitting in the same context where having one is maybe fine for most of these. If you're wanting to have fun and wild, or in there's not a whole lot of things in this that are future-proof type cards to really discuss. They're just kind of different and weird. So these are definitely more of your pure Timmy cards. So if you're looking after pure fun, then consider it. If you're looking after trying to be competitive and fun, the only one that really fits in that category is maybe your Weaponized Pinata and your Crystallizers. I can see some general purpose future proofing for Crystallizers being in context that are valuable with the card that gets bigger the more damage you take in Warlock, for example, if it sits in your hand, because that's in the Whizbang list. But yeah, keep that in mind. But we need to close the show. So thank you, Grant, for putting in all of the effort for this. You guys want to thank him for the episode this week, because he did the heavy lifting on this. And also special thanks to our Patreons. Key figure would be Jamie S. and being our official sponsor for the show. He has been supporting us for a really long time at the top level. If you guys want to support us and help make sure that our show can keep the lights on, as we like to say, with the website, with the live show, with getting graphics updated, and also just getting Hearthstone cards at all of those things help us. And you can do that over at patreon.com/Velen's Chosen. You can do that at any level you'd like. It's just basically a fan supporting service that you can choose how much you want to support us per month, and you can quote-unquote subscribe. We're also affiliates on Twitch, twitch.tv/Velen's Chosen Podcast. If you want to find us there, you can shoot us your Amazon Prime/Twitch Prime subscriptions for free, or if you want to give us a regular sub, you can do that as well, and we will get all of those things. We got some exciting news coming in the wings at the end of this month, and if you guys are excited for BlizzCon, I will be there. We can work on connecting and setting some things up. Just find me on Twitter, and we can maybe set up something up. We can go meet up. There'll be plenty of other creators there this time around. I know a lot of people that will be there, and they'll be talking about it on their shows. So keep
Meet
tabs
Rob
on
in the
them.
flesh.
In the flesh is a really weird way of saying in person, but yes. I don't know why I said that. Let's keep going. If you guys want to find us, go Velen's Podcast on Twitter, discord.me/Velen's Chosen on your browser if you want to find our Discord community and join the listener league that's overlapping with Coin Concede. We haven't talked about it much, but they had some hiccups with it today. So they're trying to do some things more manually. So shout out to Midgame for help setting that up and bridging the gap. Really appreciate his work effort. And yeah, that's going to do it for the show. If you guys want to find it, you can find it on the VODs, on our YouTube page, or our whatever. Please retweet the show if you see it. Give Pear some love on her stream from last week. It was great having her. I think in the future we're trying to get some other people with Fade to Karma using that connection. So it's been an opening door moment for us. It's great. Grant, where can people find you on the interwebs?
If you want to find me, go to Twitter at WatchmanHS. In-game, friend me, Watchman #1140. Big shout out to Schwal this week. He's in our Discord. He put out an excellent guide on how to play his version of Death Rattle Hunter, and he included Umbra in it, and he justified why he put it in there. And I thought, dang, that's perfect. It's great. And his deck helped me go right now. I'm let's see, today I'm 12-5 with it, so I'm doing good. Yeah,
Good.
I'm having a good win. And because I was doing things wrong, and he did a real good job. Explained it away, and I was like, oh, I get it now. Light bulb. So big shout out to him, and thanks for that. So light bulb, and he hit legend like in the 200s already, like week 1.
That's
with
great.
it. So
look for him in the Discord and help you out with your hunter gigs, guys.
Our Discord has got some really good experts in it. Like if you think we're experts, like no, there are people in our community that are way better than us. So you can ask their help as much as anybody. So
Eve,
join us.
You can find me on Twitter at LoreMasterEve. I have another podcast called Knights of Lore. You can check that out on iTunes. And I've been playing lots of Destiny because Forsaken just came out. So
you're on PS4.
If you are on PlayStation 4, that's the only place you can play with me because it's not cross-compatible. So if you're on Xbox or PC, sorry, out of luck. But yeah, I've just been deep into Destiny for the last week and barely came up for air.
Yikes. Sounds dangerous. Let's do it. You guys can find me on the Twitter and Instagram sites with the tag NotRob. You can find me on Twitch, NotRobMay. I might actually try streaming today, which is super late NA. But I've been actually trying to put together an APAC or Asia Pacific / Australian friendly raid group on Monday nights. And it's really hard to get that many people together, so we might be going cross-platform. So if you guys are in Australia and you're looking for a raid group on Horde side, please hit me up. We're trying to set it up. And if you guys like Overwatch, you can check out my other show, Omnic Lab. And Concept Craft coming up. I don't know when we're going to record it. I have to go check some things. But the next Concept Craft about D&D will be fantastic because we had the best session we've ever had last night with our group. If you want to get more details on it, you can talk to Steven Sensei, Cap Correlator, or Smiley Chris, because that was the most nutty thing we ever had. We went into a situation where to give you a quick synopsis, we found a bunch of fairies on our way to go hunt some orcs, and the fairies told us to not move and ask us some questions. And our DM didn't think that it was like it was a 0% chance that we were going to go into combat, and we definitely went into combat against like 50 of these things, and we're all like attacking our own party member to like calm them down and basically like tying him up and gagging him so he can't cast spells, and then we're trying to break some spells that he cast by hitting the leader of the group to kind of knock the spell loose, and I rolled a nat 20 on doing it, and so I knocked them out. And it was like the funniest thing. But it was it was an insane group, and we're gonna enjoy talking about it. I know Carrie had some really funny moments, and oh my gosh, let me tell you, if you're running a D&D campaign, and you don't have a bard in your group, you're doing it wrong. Bards are the funniest things in D&D. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for the show. Remember, not all who wander are lost. We will see you next week. And just enjoy your time in Hearthstone. Enjoy your time with any game right now. I know there's lots of good things out there with Destiny and Warcraft, and there's plenty of things out there to go hang out with your friends. So be good to each other. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.